koutou, and welcome to South Pacific Muscle. Tā mātou, manahiri, e tēnei po ko Kurt Dell. No mai, haere mai. Welcome on board, Kurt Dell. Good to have you here.
Good to be here, guys. Been looking forward to it.
You're always looking so good, bro. I've got to ask you, man, I just had my birthday. I'm feeling old. What do you do, man? What's your secret to looking so good?
I don't really know. I've been finished exams now for a week and a half, so I think I'm like kind of coming back together again. So it's probably part of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to start studying, Mike, and regain my youth. Or not. Hey, first up, I think Mike wants to talk a bit about yourself before we delve into your coaching history and some of your athletes, etc. So, Mike, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, so you're world famous in New Zealand, obviously, Kurt, but there might be a few people out there that don't know you. So let's talk about the early days. Did you have, what sports were you into when you were young?
Growing up, I was a swimmer. So I think like that's where I sort of developed my interest in weight training and all that, because we had, like a trainer that took us through dry land training and stuff as well. I did that till I was about 17. And then I kind of, typical 17-year-old started to discover girls and drinking and all those things and lost a bit of interest in it. And yeah, so like I swam sort of at the national level, did that. I think I was about 9 years old when I started that, but I played a little bit of rugby and stuff too. But yeah, swimming was always kind of my main sport throughout my childhood.
Yeah, likewise with my wife there. She didn't last as long as you. 15, she had enough and decided she got sick of the 5 hours a day training. But it does give you a good background with your lats and so on, which a lot of the women lack. But
yeah, and I think it's also just that discipline and getting used to training so often and having to be very regimented. Like it definitely transferred over, so it's good.
Yeah, cutting down from 5 hours a day to just 1 or 2.
Yeah, you got a diary on top of it though. That's the only problem.
True. I know Nate's going to pull up some pics a bit later, but can you tell us a little bit about your weight training history and competition history?
Yeah, so I moved to Australia straight after school. I just wanted to do like a gap year, and that's where I met my boss over there. He was right into bodybuilding, and at that point, I'd kind of hadn't been swimming for a couple of years, so I started gaining a bit of weight. Just get like quite chubby, which I'd never experienced in my life. Never had to worry about what I ate at all when I was swimming. And so started going to the gym with him, and I was quite lucky. I think I did my first few sessions by myself, and I'd just go and do my whole body. And then he sort of sat me down. He said, what are you doing? And he showed me how to train properly and, split things up right. And so yeah, I was about 19 when I started taking that side more seriously. And then, I fell in love with it and just kept training. And I don't know if it's just my personality, but, if I was going to do something like that, I felt like I wanted to compete, rather than just going along and just going to the gym. And so, I did that, moved back to New Zealand. So after that year and just carried it on. And then I did my first show in 2012, which is the Auckland Champs, Dell IFBB Auckland Champs. Yeah.
Nice. Hey, just a question. Are you still basing yourself out of Les Mills, Vic Street?
Yeah, mostly. I don't train anyone anymore, but just the online stuff. But I still find that sort of the gym I always end up going to. It's home base really. I go to different places, but yeah, always end up back there.
Still got a good scene up there? Good amount of bodybuilders in there still?
Comes and goes. There's a few. Definitely a few. I don't think it's like, sort of Les Mills glory days like it used to be. Yeah. It used to be pretty awesome place. Yeah. Even 10 years ago when I signed up, it was awesome. But I mean, you still get a few popping around.
Most gyms that want to make money tend to sort of shovel them off into the corner and say, don't scare the punters.
That's exactly what happened. I think, they'd find the machines that all the bodybuilders use and then get rid of that. Hoping the bodybuilders will follow.
So you did your first show in 2012. So from swimming, height, weight, through to first competition, through to last competition, what was your progress there?
Yeah. So I was, 2012, that was the Auckland Champs. And that was the first year they did men's physique. Because, I'd only been training for a couple of years, and it was kind of like, there was open bodybuilding, but then this new class came on, men's physique, and I thought, oh, I quite like the look of that. You know, it's quite a good sort of aesthetic sort of physique. And so, yeah, I went down that path, and I competed for 2012. I won that Auckland show, and then got second at the Nationals to Fawad. So he was the first pro here. But it meant I got to go do the Arnold USA the following year. And I got 7th there, which was awesome. But then the Nationals that year, I screwed them up. Then 2014, came back and did quite well, but then sort of just missed out again at Nationals. Then Mo said to me, why don't you go and do the Arnold USA at the very start of 2015? Because I was, you know, as soon as I got off the stage at Nationals, I knew I'd done well. I was just straight back into it. And so I just worked till through summer, and I ended up, I was quite lucky. I went over there for a fitness expo with Optimum Nutrition because I was sponsored by them for a while. And that was when Charles Glass was with them too. And so I told Charles I was coming back to the States to do the Arnold in about a month and a half. And he sort of said, what, you're going to go all the way back to New Zealand and come back here? I said, yeah. And he goes, well, why don't you come and stay with me? So I was really lucky to get that chance.
Killing me.
Honestly, I couldn't believe my luck, you know, like the amount of Flex Wheeler videos I'd watched over my years and all that, you know. So, yeah. So
I met him actually at Venice, and Charles Glass is a hell of a nice guy, and he's an institution over there, you know. Like I saw him and I was like, Charles Glass. Yeah. I was in awe, and he was so friendly. It was really cool. But you got to work with Charles Glass.
Yeah. So he sort of I guess he took me under his wing a bit, you know. So it was like once in a lifetime opportunity. So I just jumped at it, you know. And
good way to jumpstart your career as a trainer too, learning from someone like that.
Oh man, like literally every single session, you just sort of in awe at it, like just all these different ideas, you know. And he's got strange little ways of doing things, and they're kind of like unconventional, but when he puts you through, you feel exactly where he's trying to get you to target, and that it's really neat, and it's hard to kind of replicate even without him. So, but yeah, I still remember the first time hearing him say, like, you know, okay, one more, you know, like, and I just like pictured him saying that to Flex Wheeler, and here I am, like he's saying that to me now, you know.
Cool.
But yeah, so I did that, did the Arnold USA. There was like, this year that I did it, there's probably 200 guys in my class. It was just crazy. And it was literally just on and off. Didn't place there. And I don't know why. I think I looked better there than I did a couple of weeks later at the Arnold Australia. Decided, okay, we'll do the Arnold Australia. That was 2 weeks later. I ended up getting second in my class there. The guy who won the gold, he went on and won the overalls. And about a week later, the scorecards came out, and we actually tied with 7 points each. Cool. Somehow, I think the head judge, though, he had him, so it goes to him, you know. It's sort of how judging works. But that was cool. Then the week later, I came back and I won the New Zealand Pro-Am, and finally, got my pro card after that time. And then, then I carried on quite a few pro shows. Back and forth to states, and that was just awesome, you know, like getting to travel around and see all these different states, and they're all so different, and the people are different, and their accents, and then I got to Canada as well, go to Vancouver. That was probably my favorite place that I competed out of all of them. Was that, even I did the New York Pro and a few others, but yeah, Vancouver was just something special.
Everyone says it. It's you know, all the Kiwis that go there just absolutely rave about it.
Yeah, I didn't have huge expectations, you know. I just sort of thought, oh yeah, I'd heard a bit about Canada. But I'd love to go back and spend have a holiday there, you know. It's an awesome place. So, yeah. And so that was my last show, though, doing men's physique. And then I decided classic was the way to go. Took a year off. Did the first show doing classic last year at the New Zealand Pro-Am. And I got 5th there. And then, that was my last show. So until hopefully get on stage next year at some point.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was unaware that you'd had such an extensive competing history, because I heard your name spoken quite a lot as a trainer.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah.
So if we go across to the coaching side of things, I mean, at what stage did you sort of start coaching, and what was your background in education to sort of lead you into that?
Yeah. So I think I was 22 and I did all my personal training certificates. And that was because Norm, who's used to be the manager at Les Mills, I just started chatting to him one day. He said, "Oh, you ever thought about personal training?" And I thought, yeah, actually it'd be a cool thing to get into. So started doing that, and I was working there for about 3 years, training clients. But I never really, like, I'd train guys that wanted to build muscle in that, but I didn't really feel comfortable yet coaching other people to get on stage. I just felt like it's just a whole new sort of thing, a whole nother level of expertise kind of needed to be able to like guide someone through all that nutrition and talk them through the whole process rather than just sort of see them for an hour and send them on their way, you know? So I think it might've been a bit of a confidence thing, you know, before I really felt comfortable, like I did know my stuff well enough to actually get other people on stage. And then 2017, I think I started working with a couple of guys. Then Sam Andrews, he's a men's physique pro in New Zealand, and he reached out to me because we'd sort of been mates throughout the years. And he said, would you coach me for it? I said, yeah, hell yeah, I'll coach you. It was an awesome experience. And he ended up winning that show, the New Zealand Pro-Am here in the men's physique. So that was a cool little sort of segue into the coaching side of things. And then, yeah, just went from there, and I kind of came up with the name Team Next Level, and just slowly it's just built, I guess, more through word of mouth and everything.
Real interesting point that came up. You know, you talk about not having the confidence to prep an athlete for stage, but, you know, being a very competent personal trainer. And I've spoken to a number of guys locally that are using a personal trainer who doesn't really have any experience in bodybuilding, hasn't competed themselves or prepped athletes before, and they're getting them ready to prep for a show. And I kind of went, I bit my lip because I didn't want to be a know-it-all. But I think when you're doing a specialized sport, you know, you're always better. Like if you're a triathlete, get a trainer that's triathlete based. If you're a bodybuilder, you want to do a show, get a prep coach. You know, it just seems to make sense.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's just kind of one of those things like. I knew what worked for me, and I knew what I could do to get ready for the stage, but it didn't mean that a bikini girl, it's going to work on her. You know what I mean? Like it's very much different people going to have different things. And I think it was just biding my time and learning as much as possible before I really, you know, developed that confidence for it.
Did you prep yourself for your shows?
No. So to start with, I did right up until 2014, and a guy Mike over in the States, I met him on one of my trips over there, and he was a really good guy. He's kind of a bit of a mad scientist the way he did things, just crazy ideas. We did all sorts of different diets and stuff. It was quite interesting. But when I was staying with Charles was when I asked Charles if he doesn't really do the nutrition side of things, and I asked Charles sort of who would be the one to work with on that as well. And he said, have you ever tried Brad Rowe? So he's a bodybuilder over at Gold's Gym there and all that. And he's had a lot of success with coaching and that. Worked with Matt Jansen and Chris Aceto too. So, you know, some really good guys.
Yeah.
And and so then I started working with Brad, and Brad just, the amount that I learned off Brad just, you know, he really took me sort of to the next level in terms of everything that goes into bodybuilding. So
did he have you doing keto? I know he's a big fan of keto.
He didn't while I was working with him, but I know he does it for sort of certain situations. You know, like I remember one of the girls he was working with, she had a surgery of some type, and he put her on a keto diet because of how the anti-inflammatory properties of the keto diet. So yeah, he did mention to me though that you know, maybe one day down the track we could even do sort of a keto diet purely for insulin sensitivity, you know, especially after a big off season, be quite a good way to do something like that. So yeah, but I still haven't done it with him, so I don't know. But yeah,
Brad Rowe, is he the guy using the new fits at the moment?
Yeah. He just trained Mike Tyson for that fight, so he got on board with him. I don't really know how, but I think it was sort of a friend of a friend. And because he had been working with guys like Dexter and some of the older guys, it was perfect for Tyson, because it meant that he didn't have to lift his heavier weight, but still get that full recruitment and contraction through the muscle by using the machines. So
is anyone in New Zealand doing NewFit or similar type product?
Not that I know of.
Because I know a guy, one of the ex-Auckland boys is set up in Melbourne now. Guy Andrew Byron, he's set it up in Melbourne, and I'm so jealous because he's sending me photos of his kit, and I'm like, oh, love to play with that.
Yeah, it'd be cool to just feel it, eh? And so the last time I was over there was 2017, but he's since started using it, so I haven't had a chance yet. But it'd be wicked to give it a go. Just see what it feels like.
I listened to a podcast with him, and I think it was on Advices Radio, where he was talking about how he came across training Mike Tyson, how that came about. It's pretty funny because Mike Tyson's a pretty funny guy and he's a bit all over the place. So it was an interesting listen if you get a chance to look that up on Advices Radio.
Oh, wicked! I'll have a look.
Hey, just on the sorry, Kurt, where you go?
Oh no, I was just gonna say because Brad's such he's a very, very straight shooter, and the way he is. I guess it's just he's from the East Coast. He's kind of that personality, and it would be funny. There's that whole combination with Mike. I reckon. Good laugh.
Yeah, he said the first session, Mike was either on mushrooms or so stoned that he did, or painkillers or whatever it was, but didn't even remember Brad turning up to train him. So he had to get him to train him again. Gone to Mike Tyson's house, and then Mike didn't remember him coming over.
Oh, Jesus.
Hey, you've done a fair bit of study, and I see you got a Bachelor of Science in Pharmacology and Physiology, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I believe you're working towards your doctorate, or you've just finished exams for.
Yeah. So I started that, I started in 2000 because at school I did no sciences. Throughout schooling, I thought I wanted to do law, and actually that was the reason I came back from Australia, was to go to uni to do law and commerce. I did like a year and a half of that. And then that's sort of when I got into competing, and I kind of decided, I'll just take a bit of a break. And then I would go back, I'd do like a paper or two, but I just didn't, my heart wasn't in it. And I'm one of those people, it's like, if I'm not really that passionate about something, I just can't really bring myself to give it my all. And so I think it was like 2016, I don't really, one of my friends, she was unwell, and I took her to the hospital. And I was sort of looking around. I said, I reckon I could do this. and literally, it was probably the next day I jumped online and found out what I'd have to do to enroll and stuff. And because I did no science, I had to do almost like a bridging course for a year. It was all just like biology, chemistry, physics, just really the basics, kind of like what you'd do 7th form, science at school. And then I went on and started 2018. I started my undergrad. I was doing medicinal chemistry because I decided I wanted to do an undergrad first before trying to get into med, purely because of my age. I started to think like, shit, at least in 3 years' time, if I want to can it, then I'll be happy, and I've got this undergrad behind me anyway. So I started with that, and then after a year of that, it was pretty much the same first year courses that physiology and pharmacology had, but I really enjoyed that side of things because it was more of how it worked in the body as opposed to making the drug itself. And yeah, it became a real passion. Just learning, all how the body works, responses from drugs, all these things. And so I've just finished it was about a week and a half ago, I had my last exam, and that's my undergrad done. And then next year I've been accepted into honours, but I'm just waiting to hear back if I get into med. If I do get into med, I'll probably go straight in because I'm 30 now, so it's sort of time's ticking. But if not, I'll probably do a year of honours and then apply again. So it's an interesting process with the whole med thing because you've got interviews and you've also got these other tests called UCAT scores, and it all kind of comes together to give you your final score at the end. So yeah.
Wow. Massive. That's a really cool aim, man. It's really cool to hear that, you hadn't done sciences, but you took an interest, because I love science. And you did the bridging courses and you're on your way. So that's really, really cool to hear.
And I think I kind of worked out that was probably what I enjoyed so much about bodybuilding, was learning how things worked and why they worked. And, I think that's what really made me fall in love with the sport. So it was really cool.
Is that where you see your future as working as a doctor on the wards or a specialist, or
yeah,
do you see that just complementing the training, the coaching side of things?
I think I could see myself always being involved with it. But I think ultimately I'd like to be an orthopedic surgeon. That's kind of so far what I've found a lot of interest in. But then the other side I've found really interesting too is just how the brain works. So even going into neurology or even neurosurgery or something along those lines too. But I guess, you know, throughout med, you'll find more and more what you enjoy and what you don't. And I guess I'll work it out along the way.
Nice. So if we had a whiteboard, I'll get you could draw the whole pathway for gluconeogenesis and all that stuff by now.
Yeah, I
can't remember. I remember being able to do it by hand and all the pathways.
Yeah.
Can't remember a thing now, but no, awesome to see you've launched into that. Education is never ever wasted, so it's really cool.
Yeah.
Hey, look, we'll pull up your Insta and have a bit of a nosy, eh?
Yeah, cool.
So here we have Kurt's Instagram page, and if you're not one of the 25,000 people following him, you should be. Get on there. You can see there a bit of his background, a bit about his sponsor. So sponsored by BSN, Team Tech Next Level. Now, I'll just pull up his website quickly. So if you're interested, Team Next Level's here. All his information is on here. You can look at the packages that he provides and sign up. So if you're interested in that, get to it. And there he is, the man himself. I had to pull that photo up. I see you got a couple of photos of them. So yeah, as soon as I saw it, I made sure I got a photo, but I only met him for 2 minutes. I didn't have the pleasure. So what a great photo. What a great photo. Love it. And that must have been at your New Zealand? It was a New Zealand pro, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was here when he came over for the guest posing. So it was, man, just seeing him in the flesh, just something else.
I met him and I managed to get one of his hats. So
oh, cool.
You know, he was a hell of a nice guy. You know,
it was,
Yeah. I waded in. Some guy gave him a bit of stick online saying he was arrogant and all the rest of it, and I waded in and just said he had all the time in the world to talk and was super friendly. And it was really cool to meet him actually. But
definitely
one of your many highlights. I'm just trying to jump to your next. So here we are. What show was that one?
So that was my first show as a men's physique pro. So that was the Phoenix Europa, 2015. It was an awesome show. Phoenix was hot. I think it was like October, but it was still crazy place. It was. I did that, and then a week later, I did the showdown in LA, the Titans Grand Prix, I think it was called. So yeah, it was cool because I turned pro in March, and then they were in October, so I kind of just straight into wanting to get over there and do it as a pro. So
just looking at that photo reminds me, like I remember seeing you on stage in probably almost all of your shows that were in New Zealand, and we had a really strong scene when that took off in the men's physique. There was some superb athletes on stage.
It was massive, It was all of us, and it was kind of like, who's going to do it? Every single show, because it was pretty hard to pick one guy that looked like they had the best chance. Like it was a real fun kind of little period.
Who was your who were your favourite guys to compete against
in New Zealand?
Yeah, in New Zealand.
I think I became good mates with Sam Andrews. So we always just he lived in Wellington, I lived up here. So we just sort of see each other at the shows and stuff. But him and then Scott Crow, not many people know about Scott.
Yeah, Scotty.
Yeah, he did. He actually did the Olympia a couple of years ago.
Yeah, 2016, I think.
That's right. 3 years ago, or 4 years ago. Yeah. So he was an awesome guy as well. He was from Auckland too. Yeah. And we actually got on real well because he was with one of the brands I was with for a little while. And so we met at like an expo thing, and then we started training together occasionally in that. And good laugh.
Still competing, or what's he doing with himself?
He got real busy. He's got a good job as I think he's like a project manager for a construction company. So he's been focusing. He's got a baby. Actually, no, they've had the baby now. So they just had that. Cool. And
nice.
So so he's off doing that at the moment.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
There's some good names. Good names. There we are.
It was that was during the pose down in the classics. So it was awesome actually getting on stage and having proper poses. Like for so long, men's physique, you just stand there and I don't know, it's just a different experience. And actually just the whole practicing to pose, getting ready for it, and that it's just a different level of conditioning you need to be able to hold them. So it was cool.
Yeah, definitely. I thought you made a really good transition too. Like, you know, I guess, you know, most people's perception of a board shorts, so men's physique competitor is, you know, wide shoulders, chest, great midsection, no idea what their legs look like, and most of the time got no calves. But you know, obviously, right along the way, you know, you trained your legs pretty hard. I you know, see you at Vic Street and that, and there's certainly no doubt that, you know, you made quite an easy transition from the outside looking in. How was that transition for you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was different. That's still one thing that I still have to work on is bring up my legs more than anything. I think the upper body was pretty close to where I'd sort of want it for my weight, but, you know, a few more kilos throughout and better separation throughout my legs is the thing I'm aiming for now. So yeah, it was. I didn't do a hell of a lot different in terms of the dieting and the training, and that probably just, you know, a little bit more focus on training legs more often, because with men's physique, like I've always enjoyed training them, but you're getting ready for a show, you know, you start working on the things that are visible more so you'd still hit your legs once a week, but you're not too worried about your glute tie-ins and things like that, you know. So yeah, that was definitely probably the biggest thing that I had to change over.
Cool. I thought I'd bring up some of the athletes. Are you still working with Sean?
Sean's because he's actually doing really well. He's doing his own coaching at the moment. He's got a few guys under him. And Sean's he's an awesome guy, and he really knows his stuff. You know, he's one guy that he's been around for years, and he's just got a real keen eye on the sport too. You know, he's always, we'll send each other little posts from different shows and that, and I think this guy should have won, and then he'll hit me back, oh, but look at this, and, oh yeah, and I see what you're saying, but what about this? You know, it sort of goes back and forth. He's, I think, you know, he always hints at it. He always says, oh man, maybe this show, maybe I'll do it, you know. So, but he's got a few things going on with his baby, and he's got to put that first, he said, you know, so which is fair enough. So yeah.
No, everyone, Aaron Brinson, when we interviewed him, spoke really highly of him. I've always spoken very highly of Sean. So, the Ginger Shred man, people, if you're not following him, he's a top man. But he competed, I think I've done 2 shows with him now.
Oh, yeah.
Right. A couple of your recent editions. You want to talk us through these ones?
Yeah, so that was the 4 I had do nationals. It was, so we had Billy competed in the Masters bikini. We started working together just this year. Same as Laura, we started working together this year, and it's the first year they've held the new wellness category in New Zealand. So it's really cool working with Laura. She ended up winning the overalls at nationals. And she looked amazing.
Year. She had a good year, actually.
She's an awesome year, eh? And she's got the shape for wellness, because when she was doing bikini, it was always, you've got to bring your legs down. You've got to bring your legs down. And now she actually gets rewarded for it, which is quite nice. So yeah, but you know, first year there wasn't enough girls in the nationals for the wellness, so they decided not to do the pro card for that. So you know, she's sort of, you know, she's just focusing on her own training and stuff at the moment, because she has a business doing that. So she's doing that right now. And then Amy, we started working together last year, and she just missed out on the pro card. She ended up getting second overalls, one tall, and then second overall. And she was going to do the pro-am, but then that all got cancelled because of COVID. But she's a workhorse, you know. She just straight back to plan. And then it was like, okay, well, what should we do? You know? And she ended up doing Wellington champs. I kind of decided with her with Wellington, didn't want to push too much, because she only had 2 or 3, I think it was 2 weeks between it was 3 weeks, I think, between Wellington and nationals. I said, why don't we just keep things going as they are? It's the regional show. The big one is nationals. I'd like you to show a bit of a change between regionals and nationals for the judges, for one, but 2, there's no point sort of doing any crazy low carbs to carb up, water manipulation and stuff, because I think, it's probably going to take her close on a week to recover from that before we start progressing for the nationals. So she almost got on stage looking how she was just walking around as she was. She ended up winning tall, and she got second overall there. And she wasn't up. Obviously you always want first place, but I was on the phone to her. I said, nah, just, straight back to it. And your big focus is nationals. And then, she turned pro there, which is cool. And then Dan, he's an awesome guy. You guys had him on, so it's just a real hardworking character. He's just an awesome guy. We started working together at the sort of, I think it was around mid last year, and Dan's one of those people that the week out from a show, if I told him, all I want you to eat is boxes of cardboard this week, he would have done it, and he's like that.
With Dan, he made a massive improvement in condition between the Waikatos that he won. Yeah. Was it Waikatos and then the Nationals? And, we looked at him at the Waikatos and we said, he probably needs to be a lot harder and, probably outside the top 3, but he's close. He's got the structure. And then he turned up at the Nationals. He walked out on stage and we went, here's your pro card. So, you guys obviously worked your magic in between those two shows.
Yeah, I did the same thing that I did with Amy really there too. He didn't really do any sort of water manipulation or not like he did a bit of a carb up, but it wasn't like a full peak week kind of style prep for that one. And it was, sort of with that long-term goal of, I wanted Dan to hold as much size as possible. And I felt like if we dropped him down too much to get ready for the Wellington, we'd be pushing shit uphill to try and keep that size for the nationals, So we kind of just cruised through it a little bit. And then, 2 weeks out, we got some feedback from the judges and they said, come in tighter, come in a lot tighter. And I think he went from 84 at weigh-ins at Waikato to 80 at weigh-ins for nationals, so it was a solid drop. And Dan just worked his ass off, and it showed on the day.
Yeah, look, structurally, the guy, when you get an athlete, you get a bit of clay to work with. He was a fucking great piece of clay. And but he had the work ethic and the stickability to make such a drastic change. So what a credit to your coaching team. And I see, I looked on your Insta and said you've now got 7 pros that you've worked with or working with.
Yeah, it's just added up over the years. So.
Really cool. Really cool. Right, get back to us. Hey, Mike, I know you want to talk about just some general principles and philosophies that Kurt works under.
Yeah, so this is really, really tough because everything's got so many caveats, everything's individualized, and the program that you chuck at someone right off the bat is not the program, it's the quality of the coach, is about the tweaks you make, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But if we could talk in really general terms, what's your sort of training philosophy? Is it high volume, high intensity? Do you have any favorite intensity techniques? Do you use progressive overload? Let's sort of go with the training initially.
That's this is probably something when they see how much I've trained with Charles, they kind of expect me to be more like his kind of style of training. But what I found for myself is the angles and stuff work great, but I need to be training heavier and a lot harder to really get the good results. So I'd follow more of a high intensity training principle. Last set, all out max, and progressive overload. So always trying to, beat your last session. I used to be one of those people, I'd kind of, every workout was almost different, every single week, and I'd kind of just go and freestyle a little bit. But I found that I made my best progress when I would sort of just find my best 5 or 6 exercises for the day, and then just go in there and every single session just try and get a little bit better with them, a little bit better. If that was more weight or perform better, more reps, better control, there could be a whole lot of things. But that's the way that I like to do things. It's the way I like to do it with all my athletes, really, even the bikini girls and stuff. It's not a lot different to the way I might get a bodybuilding guy training. I think especially to have that real fullness to the muscle and just to get like, the complete roundness and everything, they need to be in there training past failure wherever they can. But at the same time, making sure they're recovering properly too, because it's, otherwise there's no real point to it.
Yeah, that's a fairly common theme is high intensity, go heavy, get the weight in. From a personal perspective, how do I manage that when I've got separated AC joint, no cartilage in my knee, tendon problems? Is there, because I would go in and freestyle it and try and go with just high intensity where I could and add the weight and exercise that I could. Nate's got me into progressive overload recently, and I'm trying to push the numbers, and I've screwed up my SI joint. And so any tips for the elderly?
See, that's the thing too. It's like I'm always going to tell someone that it's going to work to the point that like you always want to be doing things if you haven't had the injury yet, making sure that you're not going to complete failure, you're more going to form failure. That's kind of where it's, if you go past that, that's when you're kind of more likely to run into risk of injury. In terms of people that already have those injuries, I probably wouldn't be too likely to recommend it too much. It's kind of like, I think getting a lot of blood in there, getting the joint moving through full ranges where it can, I think it'll probably get you a lot more benefit than, crazy compounds and stuff.
Real interesting comment there. I just want to make sure people really got that. Failure is not always about going to weight failure. It's going to form failure. So once your form breaks down, obviously, particularly as you get to our frail years that we're at, when your form breaks down, that's when the injuries occur. So a real good point there, Kurt, and thank you. I'm going to note that because it's something I need to note, that not keep trying to push through and get shitty reps and that, once the form breaks down, that's where you're at.
Yeah, that's one thing that Charles is big on. That's probably where I got from him actually. Just the idea of you can keep going with the exercise, but if you're not even working the target muscle to get the exercise anymore, what's the real point? So yeah, the way it's gone.
Great point.
Yeah, and Tom talked about changing the tempo of the reps and to sort of increase the intensity as opposed to increasing the load sometimes. So
yeah, definitely, it's another good way.
Yeah. Let's flip over to sort of generalized diet stuff. Are you a high protein, high carb, high fat kind of man? Do you do carb cycling, mini cuts in the off season to maintain insulin sensitivity? What's your off season / pre-comp sort of philosophy with respect to diet?
Yeah, so I usually keep protein the same pretty much year round. It stays about 2.5 grams per kilo. Might fluctuate depending on what different people are using and things like that as well. But that's kind of will stay pretty consistent. I do tend to go a little bit higher in terms of getting calories from carbs as opposed to fats. More so with my guys. With girls, I like to have fats a little bit higher, just for their hormonal profile. They seem to respond a lot better and take away their carbs first before I start bringing the fats down. For guys, I tend to take away the fats first before I start bringing their carbs down. With doing it through off season, I definitely like to do sort of mini, almost like a mini bulk or mass period, so that it will kind of like push, for 4 to 6 weeks, then we might come back down. Or if I'll also look at how much weight they're gaining. If they're starting to, gain too much body fat and stuff, that's when I might start pulling things back. If they're just consistently putting on good muscle, then probably just extend it a little bit longer. And yeah, the point you make there, by doing that and then kind of dieting back down, it does two things, which are really good. It's going to increase your insulin sensitivity and also help stimulate your appetite again, because that's one thing that's going to fall off over time. And it also keeps them pretty much within striking distance. If we go and get 20 kilos overweight, then come prep time, it's going to be hell to get back down there, so it'd be nice to sort of stay within 5 to 10 kilos. Then yeah, prep's just so much easier to get through. And then with getting ready for a show, it's just kind of I try to keep things almost like a very steady progression towards a show. My athletes will send me photos at least once a week. Leading into the show, it might be, sometimes we'll get up to daily in the last week, but it'll be at least once a week throughout, that 12 to maybe 4 weeks out period. And we just make small adjustments along the way, keeping them as small as possible. I don't like to go crazy on cardio to start with. I'd prefer to have them eating lots of food and just slowly bring down the food. And then kind of use cardio as a, later thing to add in further down the track.
I find it fascinating that the top coaches can, just by seeing a video or pictures of people, actually see the difference in their physique, see them flattening out or filling up, or it must take an enormous amount of experience and a really educated eye to kind of pick those changes.
Yeah, it's see, one thing that I've like to do is actually like to do it through WhatsApp, specifically because you're able to quickly tap back between the photos, so you can actually quite easily see, what this pose looked like last week compared to this week. Or I might even actually just go across to like a collage app, and put the photos side by side, and then I can actually make those changes. I'll get them to send me their weight, but I'll also get them to send me things like how their appetite's been, how their training's been, are they sleeping well, all these factors, how their mood's been, how their energy's been, all these things, all these factors that kind of can so easily get overlooked by the athlete themselves. Because you get so stuck in that idea of like, I've just got to compete. You forget about all the other things that aren't sleeping or eating, sleeping or training. And so I try to look at the whole picture and just keep going with that.
Right, so getting into peak week, if we were say 5'9", 90 kilo bodybuilder coming in, tapering the carbs down, they're relatively depleted but not really super flat. Yep. And they're coming into the last week. Do you do a deplete load? What do you do with water manipulation? I mean, as a very general kind of philosophy.
Yep. So if we'll say, hypothetically, they're at the point of body fat that I want them, that we can do everything as we'd like to do it. I would generally I would lift water just a little bit. Maybe say the show's on the Saturday, we'd probably lift water starting on the Saturday before it. Not a whole lot but about 30%. That's usually enough to start shutting down antidiuretic hormone, aldosterone, and just setting these signals. So we're just kind of putting the body in the flushing mode. And the water doesn't really change the whole way throughout the week. I think a lot of people make a little bit of a mistake where they'll go, they'll taper water down, and so the body kind of sort of gets used to it and starts to retain that fluid. And the other thing too is they might do the carbs sort of like the day before the show when they've got hardly any water coming in, and the body can't really do a hell of a lot with it. You need, it's, 2 grams of glycogen per gram of water, or it could be vice versa. But yeah, it's, so what I like to do is, depending on where they are, if I'd like to fill them out quite a lot, I might start them carving up on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. Generally, I'd say the Wednesday. And then would probably do the heaviest carb load on the Wednesday. Lots of water's coming in. They're still getting salt in their diet. So they're able to just, store glycogen really well. Training, I would get them to do pretty much the same training the whole way up to about Wednesday. Then no leg training for about a week out, or maybe, about a week out. And then Thursday, it's usually just like a light upper body pump to about 75% of your sort of max. And then, so Wednesday, we've got lots of carbs coming in, but it's not really junk or anything. It's pretty much just the same food they've eaten the whole prep. So if they've been eating lots of rice, rice is probably my favorite thing to carb people up on. It just seems to digest really well. I'll stay away usually from things like kumara, and then I find it's got too much fiber. It's too hard for people to really, really pull it in properly, especially when water starts getting low. Thursday, it's usually about probably 80% of the carbs that we had on the Wednesday. And then Friday morning, it's usually just to see how they look. Sometimes they'll wake up, they look incredible. They're really full. I say, do you feel, jump down, do some push-ups? You feel like you're getting a bit of a pump? Yeah, feel good. And then we'll pretty much just go back to close on, maybe depending on what their diet was before they started that. But I would say, it's just a very plain meats, some veggies, and rice every single meal. If they're kind of spilling over and they're just looking like quite watery in that, we'll probably just do them on almost like a very low carb diet that day. And that's very diuretic as itself. And then, but if they're really flat, then we'll, probably do the same amount of food that we did on Thursday and just keep looking at how things are coming in all day. And then maybe Friday night, they might head off and even get something like McDonald's if they still need to fill out more, and all that sodium and everything will just help, bring them in completely.
So you don't cut water at all?
I do, but not till about the Friday. So about the Friday we go back, but what I tend to do is I say just sips when you need them, and then about, depending on the size of the athlete, but probably 150 to 200 mils of water per meal, and it will just help them absorb all the carbs and digest everything as they go. So that, they're probably having about a liter for the entire day on the Friday. But if I see that they're really starting to flatten out, then we'll probably lift water back up. They might do like 1.5 to 2 liters, and then also, you got to factor in if they're going to take a diuretic or something like that at night, it's going to change things again. So yeah, got to do that. If they were to do that, then we probably wouldn't pull water back so much. But yeah, I guess it's just athlete to athlete.
Great work. That's not an easy question to answer succinctly when there's so many variables and so many generic or bits and pieces for different athletes. It's pretty tough to answer. So well done.
Yeah, hey, thanks for that. That was a really good insight that we probably haven't explored that last pre-comp week really in that sort of depth. So for the viewers, that's something really to have a bit of think about, and realise, there are a lot of variables in there, and without having a good understanding, and particularly when your brain's kind of mud like it is in that last week, it's good to have someone on board who knows what they're doing and can make those subtle tweaks for you. So awesome.
Yeah, see, I think because I always found, like, I even made the mistake in my career of trying to reinvent the wheel in peak week, getting this idea that peak week had to be completely different to the rest of the prep. It's going to be the same food. You're going to be, if you haven't eaten, say, wheat for a few weeks, then why go and chuck it in now? And your body is not going to respond to it very well. So yeah, that's what I tend to do, is it's kind of just change the quantities, but keep everything the same.
Yeah. I think that when you do that change to a new food at that point, as the gut responds over time and adjusts itself to suit. And often you get athletes, they might be really, really lean, but they get that little bit of a pot at the bottom or a bit of bloating, and I think you certainly open yourself up to that if you start making wild changes in the last week.
Yeah, well, I mean, because the big thing you got to remember too is your body is going to produce certain enzymes that it uses to break down those foods. And if you're not having those foods for so long, then you're not producing those enzymes to that extent. Yep. Those foods come in and the body just goes, oh, what the hell's this? Can't do anything with it. So, yeah.
Gold. Hey, I want to thank you really for that insight and for your, the discussion about your team and about yourself, but particularly that last bit on training and nutrition has been really, really valuable. I've taken away a couple of learning points and I'm going to write down afterwards and use for myself. But I want to thank you for coming on board. But before we go, I just want to open the floor to you to do a shout out to anyone you want to, any of your athletes that you've got coming up that you want to talk about, any of your sponsors, any of your support people that have helped you along the way. It's your chance to recognize them.
Yeah. So I guess first off, my athletes, for trusting me to, work with them and get them ready for the stage, and that it's just, I enjoy it as much as they do. I'm not the one doing the work, which is kind of nice. I get to sleep in while they're doing the cardio. But when I go along to the shows and stuff, it's just, there's something special behind it. So yeah, every single one of my athletes I've had the chance to work with, ones that I'm still working with and the ones that I've worked with in the past, they're awesome people. And then sponsors BSN, they've been awesome. I've been with them about a year now. I just love their stuff. And then obviously, Ian's at IFBB and Mo, and just, the whole sort of federation for giving me the platform to be able to do this, So can't really thank everyone enough for it.
Yeah,
and you guys for having me on.
It's our pleasure. Certainly, people can see from this that, competing certainly opens up some pathways and you get to meet some fantastic people, and you certainly have been to some fantastic places and done some really cool shows. So for those younger athletes, look, there's that to look forward to. Should you achieve pro card, even as an amateur. There's some really neat competitions around, and you know, it's good to see someone that can talk about those things. You know, a lot of our guys that have had that experience talk about it, and I sit here absolutely jealous. You know, having never competed in an overseas bodybuilding show, but yeah, look, thank you for sharing that experience with us, and again, thank you very much for coming on board tonight. And we will be watching you closely over 2021 to see if we see you in Vancouver or somewhere else this year.
Yeah, wicked, definitely. Thanks heaps, guys.
Yeah,
See you later.
See ya.